Last time on Four for Soaring, we talked about how the way we show up for others influences them. And we heard from Robert Cialdini, who says our best evidence of what people truly feel comes less from their words and more from their deeds. And we learned about all the different ways that we can persuade those around us and help them move forward and soar. This week, we're going to talk about how to find the joy in where you are and how to kind of shed the traps of comparison. Did you know that we're all like Olympic athletes? And the way that we're like Olympic athletes is that we tend to compare our imagined reality more strongly and get more feeling out of our imagined reality and how events transpire compared to that than we do our actual circumstance and our actual reality. You can go deeper on this topic by taking out the podcast that inspired it. It's called The Silver Lining from the Happiness Lab by Dr. Laurie Santos. And in the Happiness Lab podcast, Santos talks to Michele Kwan, the Olympic silver medalist. When she talks to Michele, she looks at other silver medalists. She looks at other gold medalists and the research of a guy named Tom Gilovich. And the fact that when folks win a silver, they've been famous to be caught on camera with a scowl on their face, with some anger, with some frustration, whereas the folks that are winning the bronze are typically a lot more happy. And they've actually done scientific studies of this, looking at silver medalists and bronze medalists in Olympics, but also other sporting events like fighting competitions, etc. And what they find over and over again is that the folks that win the silver are the most upset. And the reason they're the most upset is because they're comparing themselves to the gold. The reason the bronze winners are less upset or more happy is because they are comparing themselves to the fact that they could have not been standing on that stage at all. And they have a better sense of perspective and a little bit more of a sense of gratitude for where they are and the fact that they've made it up on that stage. The reason is that gold is 2 slots away from where they are, as opposed to the silver, which is only 1 slot away. And so their imagined reality has stronger meaning for them than the fact that they're standing there as a silver medalist in the Olympics. So this bias is called a reference point bias. We're too prone to look at those closest to us. And the podcast goes into all kinds of amazing illustrations of how people that live near lottery winners will go out and buy brand new cars and that kind of thing. But what it's really all about is that we have this imagined reality. We create these reference points around whatever our imagined reality is, or whatever around our cohort is doing, or the people closest to us are doing. And we have this way of comparing. And we have this way of holding ourselves accountable to these kinds of imagined realities versus a more realistic interpretation of how we did. When Michele Kwan talks about her medal, she says, I didn't lose the gold medal, I won the silver medal. And so she has a very different interpretation and reference point that she's working with. So what's your homework? What can you do knowing that we are prone to this kind of reference point bias? I would just ask you to notice. Notice what you're using as your reference point. Are you using this imagined idealistic reality or goal, or are you using more of a longer term view of yourself and your life and your accomplishments and who you are and whose you are? Are you using that as a reference point? Notice that. Resist the urge, resist any urge to compare yourself to the people on Instagram or the people closest to you that might be making a little bit more money, or whatever it is that's driving or motivating you towards whatever goal you're working on or whatever achievement you're working on. That's not what this is all about. And so resist that urge and create a different frame of reference. Reframe your frames of reference so that you are able to handle when something comes out a little bit differently than you imagine. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't dream. It doesn't mean that you can't stretch. It doesn't mean that you can't try to accomplish all of the amazing things that you were built to do. But having a more realistic and grounded reference point, and a perspective of gratitude will definitely improve the way that you move through life and clean up the messiness of your leadership in your life. As always, I invite you into the greater community of mopping up the messiness in your leadership in your life. I invite you in, as well as anybody that you lead, anybody you think can find value in this. Thank you for joining. Then subscribe, comment, join, use 4 for soaring in your search, FOUR, the number 4, SOARING, and also look for us out on Linktree. Look at 4 for soaring, FOUR, FOR, SOARING. Thank you.